What is wrong with Rob Reiner? He's apparently trying to crawl out of a career hibernation and saying the most erratic stuff to get attention, and this time, well, he decided to launch an ill-informed tirade against Elon Musk and X before needlessly announcing his exit from the platform in favor of Blue Sky. But what happened afterwards is a meltdown that got the entire internet trolling him for it. So, after a curious few weeks of silence on X, Rob Reiner reared his head out of nowhere on Blue Sky, a new social media platform that wants to be the left-dominated Twitter of the past. Rob said, quote, "I have decided to move here for a less hateful experience." So in other words, he was trying to announce his part in a larger exodus of left-leaning celebrities and media personalities that miss the old echo chamber they used to enjoy on Twitter. That includes names like Mark Hamill, Robert De Niro, Ben Stiller, Lizzo, and Stephen King, all people notorious for having the rude awakening recently that no one really cares about what they have to say about politics outside of their narrow role in entertainment. But since vacuums always get filled, it wasn't long before Blue Sky itself started to grow a sizable presence of dissent against these celebrities, which apparently frustrated Rob Reiner enough to throw a tantrum about it, saying, quote, "All the abuse and hate from Twitter is now spewed over to here. There seems to be no point anymore." So what did he think was going to happen? If you go to talk politics on social media, you better grow a thick skin in response. Trust me. But Rob is apparently too upset that there's no corner of the internet where he can hear echoes and confirmations of his own worldview, and it didn't take long before people started hating Blue Sky as well, writing things like, quote, "This platform is vile, racist, and evil. It did not take long for the MAGA scum to come spread their lies." And it seems like they've taken enough of a mental toll on him that he literally had to go to some sort of rehab saying, quote, "I've made the decision to take the next few days to check into a facility for peace and relaxation. No phones, no social media, no trolls, just calmness to heal my pain." Yes, it's exactly as ironic as you think it is, and Rob Reiner has now disabled both his X and Blue Sky accounts to check into his mental health facility. But you know what? It's maybe for the better for the rest of us as well, because if you remember his post the last few weeks leading up to the election, Rob seemed to be getting increasingly erratic and worked up about politics at large, at one point even prematurely announcing a straight-up Kamala Harris victory when the results had barely started coming in on November 5th. And Rob is now even being clowned in the broader media and business fraternity, piling on rich celebrities like himself, as well as Ellen DeGeneres, who've said they would leave the country if Donald Trump was elected. Real estate mogul Grant Cardone wrote a scathing offer to such people, including Rob Reiner, that he was willing to lend him his private plane if he was planning to leave the country. Quote, "I'm offering my jet to all crying liberals who promise to leave the USA in case of Trump victory." Now, while Ellen DeGeneres has reportedly left to settle in Britain, I doubt you can expect someone like Rob Reiner to actually carry through on his word. If you want a picture of how compartmentalized his politics are, Rob literally believes that the reason Donald Trump got elected to his first term is because a large segment of his base is outright racist.
That is true, but how do you explain the millions and millions of people who do not watch this show, who actually like what they hear from Donald Trump and aren't taking messages and orders from us in the media, but they listen to what he says for themselves and vote for him? How do you explain that?
Well, there are a lot of people who are racist.
Oh my God!
Country.
Did you just say that?
I'm not saying.
You just said that.
Well, that's true.
So you think that people that vote for Donald Trump are racist?
They're not all racist.
You led with that, though.
No, I said there are a lot of people who are.
Okay.
There's racism in this country that has been submerged for a long, long time.
Right.
And all of a sudden, there's a man.
So he's unearthed it?
He's unearthed a lot of it.
Donald Trump is the single most unqualified human being to ever assume the presidency of the United States. He's mentally unfit. Not only does he not understand how government works, but he has no interest in trying to find out how government works in America.
How do you even debate with someone like this? I guess all I can say is it sounds as painfully out of touch with reality now in hindsight as Rob Reiner himself, and it seems like he's got a knack of calling any person or platform he doesn't like racist, which is a claim that perhaps justifies why he'd need to check himself to a mental facility in the first place. And if someone's starting from that premise, is it any wonder why he'd be for curtailing free speech on what he believes are racist-ridden platforms like X? He's big on limiting free speech and regulating platforms like X, even though it's one of the last social media platforms today that isn't under control of a liberal Silicon Valley and big tech elite. In fact, CNN just last week reported something that shoots this entire argument in the foot, claiming that X now has a more equal representation of the Republican and Democratic perspective than it did when it was Twitter.
Look at this. The party ID
among those who regularly use X/Twitter for news. Back in 2022, 65% of those who regularly use Twitter/X for news were Democrats. Just 31% were Republicans. Look at where we are today. Just a completely different picture. Now it's basically split between Democrats at 48%, Republicans at 47%. And what I should note, Mr. Berman, is this new overall makeup matches the overall electorate far better.
I'd like to see a liberal response to this statistic, especially when it's coming from CNN of all places, and imagine how much of a snowflake you'd need to be for the left to have come up with two alternatives to X, Threads, and Blue Sky, both of which are a far cry from what they want to be. That's because it seems like people on the left simply don't understand that the appeal of Twitter and then X is that you can throw out an opinion into the ether and then have yourself challenged from 10 different angles for it, even if sometimes abrasively. If someone like Rob Reiner thinks social media users owe it to him to agree and affirm his one-partisan politics online, he's had the rude awakening he was in for. But let me know in the comments how you processed all of this, because people like Rob Reiner are a window into a certain kind of far-left mindset that is both hilarious and genuinely sad to see at the same time.